We are live across your airwaves here on the National Soccer Network, Inside the Game with Nate Wangler and Ryan Glinsky, episode 231. Exciting show coming up for you guys. Again, we rolled out all the guests that we were going to have this week coming into the week. Alexi Lalas, Fox Sports analyst, as well as a member of that 1994 U.S. World Cup team, the first squad that ever played a World Cup here at home that debuted in Detroit. And he's from the state of Michigan. We're talking to him coming up in 9:30. Again, Alexis Ayala coming up tomorrow. The JP Dellacamera is going to be another fun one on Thursday. Ryan, I know you've been putting that list together of your top World Cup moments, the 120 days leading up to the World Cup. Obviously, he's been a part of that. So two different people that have been a part of these games that have been in these moments. So a lot of fun conversations coming our way. But I wanted to open the show with something maybe on a little bit more of a somber note. It's organization in a place, in a city that we work closely with. I guess to those of you who saw this yesterday, there was a shooting in Rhode Island, in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, at a high school hockey game. It was a senior day. 2 have been pronounced dead. 3 are now injured after the events that took place yesterday in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And there was actually a statement that was released on what happened yesterday. So maybe we'll have a chance here to take a look at that. This coming from the Rhode Island, and I'm assuming this is the high school,
the high school league,
the high school league that they're playing in. So the RIIL is aware of the tragic shooting at the arena in Pawtucket. Thoughts with the victims, their families, and all those affected by this horrific event. We are actively working with our member schools and have been in contact with the governor's office, Rhode Island Department of Education, and other community leaders to provide aid and support during this extremely difficult time. The RIIL has made the decision to temporarily suspend all interscholastic games out of respect for the victims and reflect upon the senseless act of violence. It is disheartening. It's sad to watch the video. Obviously, it hits closer to home too here, Ryan, because we at the Premier Media Group have done a lot of work with high school hockey in Rhode Island, as well as the Peak Performance Prep Hockey League, and for something like this to happen, this is something that for those kids. It might take a little bit to get over something like this. I've never been in an environment where that's happened, and I'm very thankful, especially living in the country that I live in. You never know. It could happen to you, it could happen to anybody, but tragic nonetheless.
Yeah, super sad, especially a family crime as well, because everyone thinks that families are supposed to stick together. Didn't happen this time around. Oops. Broke something. Didn't happen this time around. But yeah, it's super sad because we call the PPP the Rhode Island High School League and University of Rhode Island and the ACHA. We've done a football game, a playoff high school football game as well for Rhode Island, and we do a lot of work in that area. And they're really good people, really passionate, especially about hockey over there, and truly sad. And we hope we're wishing and giving our condolences to the family and anyone else affected.
Yeah, and it's at that point, man, it's about the kids. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. And so, for them to have to go through something like that is really hard. So yeah, thoughts and prayers, and our hearts go out to everybody that's involved there. And obviously we hope we can get back to some semblance of normalcy here pretty soon and get back to what we do, which is bringing you all the hockey action there. And hopefully those kids can get back to what they love doing the most, which is playing hockey. So hearts out to those people in Rhode Island. But rolling in here to hour number 1 of our show, wanted to mention this part really quickly, the Winter Olympics, our little update right now, 3rd in the medal count. They got 18. Ryan, it's been a little bit of a disappointment, I guess, in the Olympics. The 3 biggest storylines for the United States. Number 1, Lindsey Vonn performing on an injured ACL. I don't know if you saw that video of her crashing. No. Not great. Kind of a sad ending to what has been a storybook career for Lindsey Vonn. And you hate to see it. You hate to see, legendary players kind of flame out at the end of their career. As sports people, we see it with quarterbacks a lot. Peyton Manning being an example of that. But Lindsey Vonn just kind of just kind of crashed out at the end there. It's interesting that they let her actually go out and do that. Quad God, the figure skater, falling twice, placing 8th, not great for the United States. So all of our hopes and dreams rest on a gold medal for the women's and men's hockey teams for the United States. So let's hope that we don't, maybe boot it against Canada at the end of the line.
Yeah, I didn't even know how the U.S. women's hockey team's already in the gold medal. It feels like they played like 3 games, but they beat Canada 5-0 the other day or a week ago or so. Hopefully they can do it again, but I haven't been in tune to the Winter Olympics like at all. All I've watched is men's hockey. That's all I've seen.
That's fair.
I don't
That's
have
fair.
much interest in curling or figure skating. I just know Canada cheats. That's all I know.
But we need that. We need that gold bad. This is the biggest moment in USA hockey. We talk about the biggest moment in USA soccer. Obviously, it's the World Cup coming up, but you got to prove that you can beat Canada on the highest level. You couldn't do it in the Olympics. You couldn't do it in the 4 Nations. Now you have an opportunity. You didn't even have to play them in the group stage, so you don't have to beat them twice. You only have to beat them once. So it'll be interesting to see. But let's get into our soccer talk a little bit here after giving you an update on that. Ryan, the biggest concern, I think, for a lot of fans going into the World Cup, and now we're only about 4 months out from the World Cup starting here in the U.S., just closing in on 100 days, put down that there's maybe concern that there's no juice for the World Cup in the U.S. Now, I'm curious, no juice from fans or no juice from the players? Who do you think we're not getting juice from, at least on the U.S. side?
Well, it's been reported that there's no juice like at all, and people are from FIFA are worried that there's nothing from fans or anything. But to be honest with you, it's an international competition. It's 4 months away. Yep. What's going on? A lot of club things are going on, especially with teams. We're starting to get into title races for teams. We're starting to see the EPL title race. We're starting to see the La Liga title race. Bundesliga, I think, is pretty set in stone. Serie A has their title race. So the only issue that I have with international competitions, especially something of this magnitude, is no one truly gets hyped for it right now, especially. But within a month or so, everyone starts to, once everyone kind of knows their club team's fate in terms of trophies, some teams will still be playing for meaningful stuff. But right now, everyone has meaningful games. Everyone is still most likely in a competition, a cup competition, whether that's the league or a domestic cup. But right now, I mean, we're 4 months out. No one's really hyped for it yet. Like, I'm an Arsenal fan, and they're in a title race. Man City's in a title race with us. Like, everyone that's an Arsenal fan or Man City fan is going to be there watching that. And then the moment that everyone knows their fate, a switch happens and everyone goes back. But from a different standpoint that I view this as Americans, who obviously we're having the World Cup here in this summer. There's not really a ton of hype for it, I guess. There's not really, there's no billboards, I guess. There's no, I'm trying to give you guys a countdown to the World Cup to get the Americans hype, but, no one seems to be liking that shit, so I don't know. But, no, it's like no one's really – there's no billboards.
I enjoy them, Ryan.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate it.
I enjoy your videos.
There's a couple commercials. There's a couple here and there, but I think mainly everything will start to get amped up here in the next couple of months. But I also think that we're a little too far away. 4 months. I know that seems really close, and I know everything's still in place. But I feel like the marketing will start to ramp up here in the next couple of months or so. But just from right now, from an American standpoint, and there's a lot of other issues going on with the World Cup. Ticket prices being one of them, and that's people have voiced their opinion on that. But it just seems like there's not a ton of hype right now, but I'm sure once that calendar flips April, I think that everything will start to get hyped up and ramped up.
I vividly recall getting on my soapbox and talking about a handful of U.S. men's national team players and what I would like to see out of them in the new year, especially leading into the World Cup. And, it was a passionate talk, and I was talking about revenge stories for someone like Gio Reyna and Christian Pulisic. Are you the guy? And Weston McKennie, can you keep your form into international play? And then I cut back to Ryan because he does this full screen thing where he'll say his thing and I'll say my thing. Well, I started off this segment And then it cut to Ryan, and immediately he's just like looking into the camera, like, dude, we're 5 months away. Like, it's January right now. Like, what are you talking about? Like, we still have all this stuff to wrap up on the club level. And it's true. Like, as much as because from my perspective, that's all I can think about right now is World Cup. I'm not thinking about Major League Soccer. Obviously, we talk about the Premier League and a lot of the things that are going on over there and our individual updates for the players. But that's the only thing that's on my mind right now is World Cup. But that's now not how it works, especially for our top players that are playing in those top flight European leagues, as we've talked about, because they're getting into the most important part of their seasons, as you just explained. So from a player perspective, I can see where, yeah, there probably isn't a whole lot of juice. And that's what makes like these upcoming friendlies, I know we got Senegal coming up on the 28th. That's what makes these friendlies interesting, because there's still that element of, these guys are, again, they're getting into these windows where, now the rubber meets the pavement. Now they have to go complete their goals, finish out their seasons, do what they need to do in order to make sure that their professional career, that side of their career, or at least the club part of their career, is where it needs to be. There's a lot of lofty goals too. We talked about Christian Pulisic and what he set out and everything, and obviously the injury issues. So that's what's on their mind right now. So from a team perspective, yeah, it's going to be hard to see any juice. But from a fan perspective, I think the hard thing is that, yeah, number one, we have to get a little bit closer. I think it's going to hit like an avalanche when it does turn to April, when it does get within that range. You're going to see the media kind of flip a switch. But for right now, it's, I think it's just hard, because for people like you and me and even Alexi Lalas, when we have him on the show here in a little bit, and we'll ask him about Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie, it's hard for the general American public, unless you're really like locked into what's happening to each of these individual players and their careers overseas, unless you follow these Twitter accounts or you follow these other accounts that are, giving you the overseas overviews, or watching Inside the Game. That's another one. Maybe you're not really paying attention to just how well they're doing. You're not seeing what Weston McKennie has done this year. You're not seeing that Christian Pulisic has been great in the stretches that he's been healthy. Again, that's the biggest concern, as well as all the other examples that have been playing extremely well. And then we could list off all of them. But if you're not paying attention to that, and if you're not actually going out of your way to do your homework and look at, wow, like this is the deepest we've been in our country's history to this point, it's probably not, you're probably expecting much in the same from the U.S. men's national team when the World Cup comes around. You're expecting what the ceiling is, which is what you said, like a round of 16, which is not a bad thing per se, but I think it's hard to get American fans really amped for, you're going to get bounced in the round of 16. But I think there's some people that believe that, this is a group that is capable of doing much more than that. But that's where it's hard, I think, for the general American audience, is that, it is, I guess it's more for the show than it is necessarily for the team. But I there's not really much of an excuse, to your point, for American fans, though, right? Because like in Europe, yeah, all the leagues are going on and everything, but like Major League Soccer's not playing right now. So
Yeah,
why
but
is
we
there
got
nothing
10
on
different
this?
leagues
The Super
going on
Bowl's
right
over.
now.
That is true.
We got
That
college
is,
basketball, we have the NBA, we have the NHL, the Olympics are going on right now. So it's
Yeah.
not like
Yeah.
Europe where you just root
Yeah.
for a soccer team or a rugby team and that's it. Like there's a whole bunch of other different things that your attention to. Like if I'm being completely honest, my whole
Yeah.
attention is to the Michigan men's basketball team. Like that's really where all my attention is. I,
And hockey too. Yeah. I mean, at least from my perspective, hockey.
like Pistons, sure they're cool to watch, but I'm not concerned for them quite yet until they get to the playoffs.
Mhm.
And the Red Wings, I'd like to see them get to the playoffs. But no, I think that to your point about the team just sucks. So like let's who really cares? But
Right.
like
Right.
when South Africa had it in 2010, that team sucked, but the whole country was so hyped for it and got behind the team. Then Shamalala's goal or whatever his name is, I think Shamalalala was his name. Goal for South Africa, goal for all of Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole nation got behind it, and that's why they were so sad when Luis Suarez does a handball and kicks Ghana out, basically. But no, it's I just think that there is in America we have so much stuff. Like and you even have all the entertainment that goes on too, like the Grammys, for an example, award shows, celebrity beef and all that stuff, like movies that come out, big movies. So there's so much stuff that comes out, and obviously all of your sports teams as well. So I think we just have too much stuff compared to a lot of other countries. Like it's unbelievable the amount of stuff that we have, and grateful to
Yeah.
have all this within our own country with all the
Yeah.
celebrities, music artists, like people move here to pursue those dreams. And I think though, if we're looking at it from a marketing standpoint, maybe Fox, that obviously has the rights. Maybe they're just focused on getting through the college basketball season and then going from there. I mean, because I know college basketball does a really good numbers on Fox. Even though I think they ruin some big time matchups in football and college basketball, but that's just my opinion. Like Michigan State should not be playing on a Friday night. They should be playing on a Saturday night. And every big Ohio State or Michigan game that's not Michigan versus Ohio State shouldn't always be played at noon. Just saying. But no, I just think that I think Fox is trying to get, once that regular season of college basketball ends, which is I think around the first week of March, maybe second week of March. And once that happens, I think they're immediately going to turn their heads. But when we have so much stuff in this country in terms of sports and entertainment, I mean, it's kind of hard to get hype for something that not a ton of people follow on a day-to-day basis, and two,
Yeah.
something that's 4 months away. So under 4 months away, just under. So it's I think it's a little difficult to get to, and I think that is from, I think Touchline was the Twitter account I got that from. I think it may be still a little bit of pushing the panic button right now. I think that's a little bit of jumping the gun. I think that we're just a little too far away to get super hype. And someone mentioned billboards and stuff. I think we got to get a little bit closer to do all that, because you also don't want to market something that's 4 months away and blow a bunch of your marketing budget, advertising budget on something that's still far away.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think once the Olympics wraps up, I think then finally maybe we're
USA
into that
hockey
period
takes up a lot of time too. Right now.
So I'm sure once that finishes up, but there's a lot of people that actually enjoy watching the figure skating and the curling and the snowboarding, and I like watching the snowboarding. That is fun. It's fascinating how those guys can do what they do. But like, I think once that wraps up, you're going to see it pick up really quickly. But again, there's just not, it doesn't live and breathe the way it does in other places. It's the hardest thing to explain to people. It's also hard because I feel like we're just not the names that are on this U.S. men's national team. And we've had this conversation about this before. They're just not household names. Like Weston McKinney is not a household name. Christian Pulisic might be, obviously, for people that follow the sport and play the sport. And you talked about, promoting him would do numbers. They don't do enough of that. But a lot of the key players on our team, they're just not household names. They're not dudes they're just dudes, which is like, that's
they're
cool.
Jags,
and I think that's something,
Steve
something
Smith
that can
says.
be
Just a guy.
good. And I think that's something that can be channeled by Mauricio Pochettino and by this team. I think that's something that they could absolutely use to their advantage as kind of a us versus the world mentality, which is quite literally what that is. And so I can see that being a good thing for the U.S. men's national team. It's just unfortunate that that's our reality in this country. Yeah, soccer is obviously not the most, I think, important thing for the media or for the fans. But on top of that, there's just not a lot of household names on this team. So until you get really close, it's going to be hard to get people like actually going.
But I also think, not just America itself, but a lot of the other European countries aren't hype yet. Like, they're not looking at it yet. It's
that's true.
Once everyone knows what their clubs are going to do in terms of the season, if they're going to be in a domestic cup final, or they're going to be in a title race, or are they going to make the top 4 to get Champions League? No one's hype yet because it's so far away. Like, notice how like no one really gets hyped for the Olympics or anything. Like, if we were having this conversation 2 months ago, nobody was talking about the Olympics at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it randomly shows up, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh crap, the U.S. men's hockey team plays today. Like, I didn't know about that. I didn't need it to be hype or anything. I just need to know when these games are playing, and then I'll start watching. Like, obviously, when it's soccer, that's a little bit different because of what I do for a morning and afternoon and sometimes evening. Like, I need to know about all this stuff. But for U.S. hockey in the Olympics, I ain't paying attention until the games start. Like, I didn't even really look at the U.S. hockey roster, to be quite honest with you. I just heard Dylan Larkin was on it, and I was like, cool. And I know the Kachucks will be on it, and Austin Matthews. Like, after that, when the games happen, that's when I'll start watching. So I think there's just a lot going on.
Yeah, there is a ton going on. But let's take a step aside. When we come back, we'll get into our second topic. Then obviously we got Alexi Lalas coming up as well very shortly here on Inside the Game. But FC Bayern summer camps are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, fostering football excellence across North America, open to boys and girls of all skill levels. FC Bayern camps deliver elite training inspired by FC Bayern Munich's world-class philosophy. Select your city and start a promising soccer path. Right now, save $30 on registration by using promo code BayernNSN30, and that's BayernNSN30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Learn more at fcbayernyouth.com. Clive and Inside the Game, episode 231 here on the National Soccer Network. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky, and joining us now on the show, lead analyst and soccer commentator with Fox Sports, but more importantly, a member of that 1994 World Cup team, the first to ever play the World Cup here in the United States. We've already had him on the show once, but we're bringing him back on here today. That is Alexi Lalas joining us here on Inside the Game. Appreciate you stopping by.
Oh,
believe you might be muted. Either that or we have you muted on our side. We'll see if
not muted over here.
Not muted on your side.
No.
He says 1 second.
All right, we'll put him on.
I will say I do like his setup though. That's my favorite. But he's got the flag in the back. He's got the guitars. I know he's into music too. It's better than I got to get something going. This white curtain behind me. I gotta get something like he's got over there. But we'll get into.
I just have a green screen.
He's got a brick wall behind you.
Yeah, it's a green screen though. That ain't nothing.
Yeah. Well, that whole room is green, but we'll get him into the mix here momentarily. We were talking about the World Cup and the lead up to the World Cup. Obviously, the last time it was here in 1994, shortly after that Major League Soccer was introduced in the United States. And he talked about it a lot about the pride of coming back. Is he on? We got him now.
I had his levels. Yeah, there we go. We'll bring him in now.
Hello.
Got him now.
Yes.
All righty.
Yeah, we got you, Alexi. We got
Welcome in.
Jeez. All right. Well, God, you should have heard what I was saying. I mean, I was giving you pearls of wisdom here. This is only for you gentlemen would I get my ass out of bed this early and not jump on a call. But you look wonderful.
Yeah.
I love the brick motif over here, and I know you're not in a shower, but it sure as hell looks like that's a shower curtain behind you. So you might want to work on that. Let's see what else. It's Shabalala, okay, from
Okay.
South Africa. Okay, one of the great goals in World Cup history. Not just because it was in the opening game of the World Cup down there in South Africa for South Africa, but just in general, which is a great goal. He smacked it in the upper 90s. So, yeah, I've been listening to the show and your lament as to the I guess the lack of excitement and coverage out there is valid and fair, but I also think that you guys correctly and fairly talked about the reality of the situation, and especially in the U.S. with all the different stuff that we have going on. You'll see plenty of stuff, but again, I can't remember who it was who said it, but correctly pointed out that you have a budget like anybody else, and you want to make sure you maximize it and get the most out of the money that you are going to spend for marketing and advertising. And so I think you'll see a whole lot more as we get closer and closer to the summer.
I guess for you, when did it start to get real in '94? When did it start to really kind of hit home for you?
Yeah, so again, perspective is in order, and so while we can scratch our heads a little bit about the lack of promotion, if you will, right now, it's still night and day relative to 1994. Yeah. Many people didn't even know the World Cup was coming, and certainly in that moment, kind of turned in, and it was a steady progression and an evolution even through the tournament. So, as the saying goes, you've come a long way, baby, and we certainly have. But still, this is still a World Cup that, for the most part, is being played in a country where soccer, as we know, isn't king, and there's a whole lot of other stuff that people, think about and care about in the moment. So there is still an element of spreading the gospel. There's still an element of introduction to a lot of people. I know you guys were talking about Fox, and we're really proud again to be able to bring the yet another World Cup to the United States. And I think the biggest difference is back in '94 we stopped the bus in terms of explaining stuff and what a World Cup, what a World Cup is, what offside is, all this stuff. We don't do that anymore, and I'm really excited about people coming back to our country or coming to our country for the first time, and then our own country realizing how far we have come, how educated we are. Don't let anybody tell you that America isn't a soccer nation and that we don't have a soccer culture. Yeah, it's different. Yes, it's unique, but it's incredibly robust and educated and discerning, as I always say, and it's important to be reminded of that, and I think this summer we will be reminded of that.
Alexi, in '94, you, of course, had the World Cup here in America. What was the message that 94 group wanted to send to not only the world, but to the American fans that may not have really known anything about soccer?
I mean, we didn't want to mess it up, first and foremost. And I think, by the way, if I could do a little promotion here, we have a documentary on that 94 team and the lead up to 1994 coming out here in a couple of months. So definitely look for that. But one of the themes in that is the opportunity, but also the responsibility that we all felt towards this sport that still, while it has a history, was still relatively young in the United States. And so I think we wanted to make sure that when that final whistle blew, that we had left a mark, and a good positive mark, and we had pushed along the sport. It's like anything else, it's like parents. You want to leave your kids and the world in a better place than when you started. And so this was kind of our baby. And I like to think that we did that, and we made some noise, and people remember it. And I still to this day get people that will come up to me and say, hey, that was when things changed for me in terms of soccer. And I lived that power. I lived it individually, but a lot of people were introduced to it, and they found a lifelong love of the game. And so that's kind of what you want to do. But as I said, this team, and you were talking earlier about the talent of this team, even though many of them aren't well known. You're absolutely spot on, by the way, when you talk about some of these players who are making a lot of money and they're very famous elsewhere. But there's nothing better than a World Cup except for a home World Cup. And so for them, this is an opportunity to, I don't want to get crass about it, but the kids call it a brand nowadays. We didn't call it that back then, but we still thought about it in the same way. For them to expand their brand, this summer is a huge opportunity for some of these guys that, while they may be famous and well known elsewhere, from a U.S. perspective, they're still being introduced.
Well, in talking about expanding the brand, I mean, I feel like there's no better way of doing that than what happened after the '94 World Cup when Major League Soccer was introduced. And I remember you talking about the tremendous amount of pride you had in flying back to the U.S. and playing in that league that was introduced here in the United States. Ryan and I have talked in length about this on the show. You know, I find it hard to see a world in which any of those players start to come back to the United States, even after this World Cup. It would be nice to see. Do you picture a scenario in which this World Cup starts to lead some of those players back to the U.S.? Maybe not in the swan song of their career, but when they're still having their productive seasons?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's more of a fantasy.
Yeah.
And again, it was a very different time. MLS was still, well, it was originally going to happen after the '94 World Cup. And, to their credit, they recognized that we weren't ready yet. And so we had to kind of put it off a couple of years. But when MLS did kick off in 1996, it was chock full of players that had been seen by the American audience in that '94 World Cup. And that was by design. And that's a good thing. Obviously, we're in a very, very different place. But again, if MLS really has these aspirations to be the greatest league, the biggest league, the most popular, whatever it ends up being in the world, they're going to have to do some things going forward. I don't think it's all going to be dependent on the World Cup, and I don't think it should. But I think there will be some players that you will see in MLS, but it might be much more relative to where they are in their career or the opportunities or lack of opportunities they may have, as opposed to specifically the World Cup generating that move.
It feels like a big discussion about, does a player have to go over to Europe to prove themselves or become a soccer player and better the American game? Does playing in Europe, in your eyes, truly matter to you?
Does it matter? I mean, I guess it matters in terms of the perception, and I also understand, the aspirational aspect still of playing in Europe. But one of the things that's interesting about Mauricio Pochettino is that he doesn't suffer fools, and he has come in and made it very, very clear he doesn't give a crap where you play, as long as you are a good soccer player. And I love that type of mentality. I don't think it's lip service, and I don't think it's undermining what he is trying to do, especially with where MLS is here in, almost to the summer of 2026, just about, this week we start the 31st season. So that's a long way of saying, I really don't care where you play. I know it's impressive, and understandably so, when people say you play in Europe. But look, if you want to play in Europe, and I know a lot of players do, there's flights leaving every hour on the hour from Los Angeles and from New York and everywhere in between. But going to a place where you are comfortable, where you are playing, where you enjoy the country and culture, oftentimes it's a new language, and oftentimes it's not just you. And we talk about that 90 minutes because that's really what matters to us. But there's another 22 and a half hours in the day that you have to function as a human being. And so that's not always easy. So just because you may have the perception that a player is better because they play in Europe, that's not necessarily the reality. Otherwise, we would just send all of our players over and have them, touch the tarmac over there at Heathrow and then fly back, and automatically their value would have been improved.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes there is that bias, there is that perception when it comes to certain players, but I think part of it is the educational component. Yeah, obviously, I think the international game has influenced the American game in a lot of ways, and you talked about the melting pot of ideologies here in the U.S. and how sometimes that's tough to corral and kind of create one identity. Are you seeing an identity form with this U.S. men's national team under Mauricio Pochettino? Are you seeing that identity form?
I am, and let me just drill down a little bit so people understand the context in which we're talking about. And oftentimes people will ask me about how to make a national team and the really unique aspects in our country. One of the things that I do think makes us unique, and in many ways makes us such a great country, is this incredible melting pot and is this diversity. But it's also incredibly challenging to find 11 men to put on a field that represents a country of not just 350 million people. So there's just the actual amount, but all of that diversity that exists in it. You know, growing up in Michigan, the way that I thought about soccer was oftentimes different than the way, for example, a kid growing up in Jersey or Southern California or Texas or other places. And it can be influenced by, I mean, literally, it can be influenced by weather or the type of fields that you play. Obviously, it's influenced by the people that are around you and, you know, the different diaspora that we have, all of those things. All right. Now, so that's the context of what we're talking about here. When I look at this team right now, keep in mind that under Greg Berhalter in 2022 in the World Cup and that cycle leading up to it, there was a lot of talk about how, well, this is just the initial phase of this group that were very, very young, second youngest team at the World Cup, the previous World Cup. Where we'll really see them come to fruition is in at home here in 2026. Now, you can't be sure that everybody's going to work out. And as a matter of fact, you know, you look at a player like Musa, some of them haven't continued on, and there has been change, and that's relative to just natural progression or lack of progression, and then a new coach. But I do think that Mauricio Pochettino, like I said, has made it very, very clear that this is a team that needs to understand what they're good at and what they're not good at. And any national team needs to understand that. And I think he, you know, while he has played his whole career and coached his whole career over in Europe, there is still that Argentine ruthlessness that I just absolutely love, that I think he has instilled in this team, in that you're not going to be given anything. You are not a team like France or somebody else that is going to be able to play through people, that is going to have depth. I mean, a whole other team basically that could compete with most national teams out there. And so you are going to have to find a way to combat that by working hard. And for some of these players that have been raised from a very young age with the idea that they're special, that can come as a little bit of a surprise. But I think what it really harkens back to is ultimately the mentality and the ideology that has kind of existed from the start when it comes to this men's team. And so I'm happy that he's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It doesn't mean we can't evolve, and it doesn't mean we can't do different things. But he's taking the best of what we've had before and maybe adding it to the talent that he has and this evolved type of way of playing that can be of quality. But we're not at the elite level yet, and so we need to combat that, like I said, with a physical nature, set pieces, all the usual kind of stuff.
Do you think we've improved as a national team from the last cycle?
From the last cycle, yeah, I do. I think we have, and I think obviously sometimes you go through traumatic, not that, you know, losing a coach is traumatic or anything like that, but big change. And, you know, there's a new sheriff in town and he comes in, especially the way that he came in. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, there were times under this Pochettino time that I was scratching my head, and I've come around the other side to at least give him the grace that there is a method to whatever madness I have seen over the last year and a half. But ultimately, let's be honest, he's going to be judged this summer, and nothing really matters until this summer. I know you and I and all of us will wring our hands, and we'll have angst and, you know, complaints and criticism with all the friendlies and all this kind of stuff. But really, until that whistle blows this summer, that's what he is going to be ultimately judged on. And I think he understands that, especially for a coach that didn't have to go through qualifying.
I wanted to ask you about just a few specific players. Obviously, starting off with Christian Pulisic. I feel like we talk about him pretty much every day on this show. We had mentioned that the injury issues were becoming a bit of a concern. Obviously, the run of form he's had this year with AC Milan has been wonderful, but I think now the concern kind of becomes, will we have a fully healthy and productive Christian Pulisic when the World Cup comes around? What says you about what Pulisic looks like in terms of the injury issues?
Well, I think that fully healthy Christian Pulisic, not only do we want to see it, I think it's a necessity for our team. Now, Christian Pulisic, as we know, is a kind of a reluctant leader. He's never going to be the character and the personality that many people want him to be. And I understand that when people, you know, are not critical, but again, there's a lament to why isn't he bigger, and why doesn't he impose himself? Because of the talent that he has. I do think that he's well on his way to becoming, arguably the best men's American soccer player ever to play the game. But he also, he brings it for the national team. And we saw that first half of the Serie A season where he was arguably the best player in Serie A. And, these injuries right now and the way that he is kind of obviously not featured because of those injuries. Yeah, it's concerning. But I'll put it this way. For someone like Gio Reyna, I'm much more concerned with him not getting on the field and not playing. Because I know Christian Pulisic is going to be Christian Pulisic. Obviously, everybody wants to be healthy. I do think that he will be healthy, and I do think that he will bring it again this summer. But him missing games right now, it's different than, like I said, a Gio Reyna or, for example, a Ricardo Pepi right now. I think, those guys really are risking their summer, and I'm not convinced that if and when they were to get back on the field, that they necessarily are going to bring it for the national team, as opposed to a Christian Pulisic.
What are some realistic expectations for this U.S. men's national team in the World Cup? Like, what do you see as our ceiling?
I mean, look, everybody asked me this question, and so I can tell you win the World Cup. I will tell you that, if we've been showing those clips of a lot of hair ago, and if you had asked that guy back in 1994 what it would look like, whatever, almost 100 days here now before the World Cup and the return of the World Cup to our country, what it would look like, I would be like, well, we're going to win the World Cup, right? And we're not there, and so that's a little disappointing. But I've gotten over that because it's not always linear, and we all understand that progress takes twists and turns. Having said that, I do think that there is a magic that comes from a home World Cup. And I think that magic will be on display for this team. We got a group that we should win. Okay. And, I hesitate to call it easy. I was doing the draw from DC, and, we were coming on air, and I was thinking of different words to use, but, the reality is that this is an easy group when you compare it to other groups. Give me another group in the past that we have had at a World Cup that you would rather have. Now, I'm not saying that these guys can't screw it up. They absolutely can. But again, a group that you should win, a expanded World Cup, and therefore best third place teams, some of them are going to. So there's no excuse for not coming out of the group. But that's low expectations. I'm tired of these low expectations.
Same here.
All right, we should have much higher expectations. We've gone to World Cups. Men's World Cups. We've won groups at Men's World Cups. We've gone to the round 16. We're a hand away from going to a possible quarterfinal back in 2002. So ultimately, I want to see things that haven't been done before. How that manifests, I don't know, because it's not necessarily tied to winning and losing. Obviously, winning and losing is the most important thing. But, if you play a game in the round of 16 against a team that's a lot of people feel is better than you, and you lose in a shootout or something like that, I'm disappointed. And there's an element of failure in that, but it doesn't mean that the entire tournament was a failure. Having said that, obviously you get out of your group. Now you're in the round of 30, this new round of 32, in which if you win your group, you're going to play a team that you should beat. And I think the most difficult part for this team is to become the favorite for any team. Let's be honest, in any sport is we're really good at being the underdog. We're really good at, punching above our weight. But when we're the favorite, and if we were to win our group and then go into this round of 32, you're going to play a team where you are the favorite. In a knockout round, in a home World Cup, you take care of business. Now we're back to the round of 16, where we've kind of always been. And now you're up against a team that people say, well, they may be better than you and stuff like that. Right. Well, now you got to come up with a big moment, a magical moment. Yeah. And every team, doesn't matter who you are, you need a little bit of smiling from the soccer gods, and then, anything can happen. But I think anything less than a round of 16 performance, regardless of what the scores are, I think is going to be considered a failure.
I'd agree.
One of the things that I've loved about Mauricio Pochettino, and it's why he's kind of won me over, is he talked about how he fell in love with the movie Miracle on Ice. Apparently,
Yeah.
he watched it all the way through, and now he's a big fan of it. And obviously, the biggest theme in that movie, outside of just how inconceivable that entire tournament was, and that team winning gold, was just the overwhelming sense of pride wearing that USA on your chest. And I always thought that that's the biggest honor in sports. It'd be one thing to go out and win a major professional championship. It's a whole different thing to wear the USA or the crest or whatever it is. Just walk me through the emotions you had when you got to finally put that kit on and walk out and play, especially in a place like Michigan where you grew up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously a full circle moment for me back in 1994, playing our first World Cup game and at home, obviously, and not just at home, but literally, like you said, 15 minutes down the road at the old Pontiac Silverdome. Rest in peace. And by the way, it was the first indoor World Cup game ever played. And when I say indoor, it's a little different than the indoor venues that we're going to see this summer. By the way, we have 4 indoor venues when it comes to Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, and Vancouver. And you could even say 4.5 with SoFi over there. But these are climate control types of things. I love the Silverdome, but it was like a hothouse in there. It was one of the hottest games I ever played. They put grass in there, and the humidity had nowhere to go because of the dome. But it was still indoor. Anyway, it was a wonderful moment to kind of look up, and I had gone to see, obviously, the Lions play there, concerts there at the Silverdome. Even, back then, the Pistons were playing there at different times.
Yeah.
So it was just, this iconic venue from my childhood. And to have that moment, to come and land in Detroit, and the train up at where we were, Oakland College, just all these different moments in my life. And then to walk out on that field, so from a personal perspective, obviously, it was incredibly impactful. You mentioned the pride that you feel. Look, the wins and losses, yes, they're important. But for me, I'm 55 going on 56 years old. And if Mauricio Pochettino were to turn around at one point and point up into the stands and say, hey, you got 20 minutes in you, even with my, knee replacement and all this kind of stuff, I would run down there and I would do that just for the opportunity to have one more moment to represent my country in that context. And it remains to this day one of the most proud, the proudest moments of my life, were when I'm sitting there or standing there on the field, and you put your hand over your heart and you sing that song and you look around, oftentimes in very hostile types of environments, and you represent what I feel is the greatest country in the world. As a matter of fact, we have a new podcast out. My friend David Mossy and I do a podcast called State of the Union, and we were talking yesterday about the dual national effect, which certainly we had back in our day, but this mercenary type of effect that has come into play, and guarding against that. Because, look, I understand that there's a lot of players that can play for multiple national teams that pick relative to where they think they have the best chance of playing. And I understand that, going to a World Cup, playing on a national team and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, it has to be more than that. At some point, you have to feel something for that country that you are representing. At least I think that that's important. I think that's one of the beautiful and the unique parts about international soccer, is that you are representing your country. I mean, we have debutantes in Cape Verde and Curacao and Uzbekistan. And one of the greatest, in my broadcasting career, one of the greatest moments was the national anthems when Panama went to their World Cup for the first time, and going down the line as we do with a camera, and seeing the tears stream down the face of the Panamanian players. All right, not because they were going to win a soccer game or score goals or make money or anything like that, but because of the pride in that moment that they felt that their country was on this platform and on this pedestal for the world, globally out there, and how important it was to them, to show off their country in that moment. I love that element of not just international soccer. I mean, we're in the midst of watching the Olympics. I think that national pride, there's something about these sporting events, and we've seen it. And you guys, I know you guys mentioned a bunch of other sports. We've seen it in hockey, we've seen it in baseball, and hopefully this summer again, at a time when I think we need to feel united. Oh, by the way, on our 250th birthday, hopefully the World Cup is able to bring people together in a way that other things can't. And we celebrate not just the sport, not just this opportunity and responsibility of the World Cup, but we also celebrate what I feel is the greatest country in the world.
Last one, Alexi. I bought Bruno Mars tickets a couple months ago, so I've been in a very concert mood. So I've asked and you got a couple guitars behind you. I've asked every guest that we've had on if you could go see a concert, see any band or artist, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive? Well, I mean, they're not dead, but they don't really tour anymore. But I mean, look, I would love to see, the original Led Zeppelin in like the Forum here in LA or something like that, or some classic type of 70s type of concert. I think that would be very, very cool. I think what would be interesting is juxtaposing it with going to concerts right now, and the horrible sound that you would hear. I'm not sure it would live up to it, but it would be really interesting to see what it was like. I mean, the first concert that I ever went to was, I think, back in 1981, 82-ish, Pat Benatar up at the Pine Knob Music Theater up there.
Where I saw my first concert.
Up there, that was very, very cool. And then, I went to concerts. I saw, Rat and Bon Jovi at Cobo Hall. I saw Def Leppard in the Round. I mean, so many concerts at Joe Louis and all that kind of stuff. Down at Harpo's and the Fox Theater and all sorts of different places around Detroit. So music obviously is a huge part of my life. It has been for a long time. But yeah, those are the types of things that I would like to see. Maybe some sort of classic type of moment. I mean, not that you necessarily would be there, but just to see on television the Beatles on Ed Sullivan or something like that. I mean, because it's such an iconic moment. And so many people, if you talk to musicians, especially from that era, so many reference like that was the moment when everything changed. And obviously, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. So it'd be interesting to live that in that moment where you're sitting there crossed legs and your life changes because of a 3-minute piece of music and this crazy phenomenon that was the Beatles.
Yeah, and nothing compares to seeing it live, I'm sure. Alexi, we appreciate you stopping by as always. I know your second time on the show here. I'm always amazed by your willingness to go on podcasts and different things and talk to different people. I do think it's cool, your willingness, your openness to teach people about the game and to just kind of open eyes, because you don't always see that from people, especially in the mainstream media in a place like Fox Sports, so we really appreciate you stopping by and talking to us.
Well, as I tell you each and every time, and it bears repeating, it takes a village, right? And this is a village, and whether it's you or anybody else out there, what you are doing is important. Okay, as big, little, anywhere in between, this is all about, like I said, spreading the gospel. And so I have a tremendous amount of time and respect for people like you that do it. At times we agree, at times we disagree. That that's okay. We all love the game. I think we all love this country. We want to see it succeed, and we want to see this summer a really wonderful moment that many, many years from now, when I'm long gone and you guys are around, you and your generation will be able to say, man, do you remember the summer of 2026? That was awesome. So we got ourselves, like I said, a great opportunity, but also a wonderful responsibility, because this is happening on our watch. And I hope that when all is said and done and that final whistle blows, not just for the U.S. team, but for soccer in general, that we've pushed it along. We understand it's not going to change overnight. And the circus will leave town, but what's that legacy that it leaves? And the work that we do right now, and the positive energy, I guess, that we put into this summer can go a long way in terms of establishing that legacy, as guys like you can, for the stuff that you are doing each and every day.
Thank you, Alexi.
Appreciate you as always. That's Alexi Lalas here on Inside the Game.
Have a great day. We actually
great interview as always, man.
Come in from that. Wing Hero says, y'all ain't beating Australia. Pray hard Turkey is the eventual winner of the playoff. Come on, man. We're going to take care of Australia. Don't you worry. We're winning it all.
I've met a lot of Australian people in my life. Actually, a couple of them in minor league ball, they used to call me an orangutan because I have red hair, which seems like borderline. Like, I feel like you can't really do that, but they did anyways. But yeah, they don't like they think they're gonna smash us. They think it's easy money on their end. But
Yeah.
a big thanks to Alexi Lalas for dropping by the show again, second time here on Inside the Game, chatting with us. And again, I like I said, I love his willingness to talk to different people and to go on different shows and do different things. And he mentioned spreading the gospel, and that's pretty much what it is. And I think the nice thing is he has accepted the responsibility of what those original players, we talk about the 90s and even, even into the 2000s, if you're not playing anymore, he has kind of taken that on his shoulders to be like, him alongside Taylor Twellman and a lot of the other top end U.S. men's national team players that are doing stuff like that now to really spread the game. And so I think that's awesome. And I think it's cool to have an experience to talk to him like that, and just jealous. I don't know, jealous that he got to wear the USA on his chest, because I really do think that'd be the coolest thing to do.
I hope.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. At least. Let's take a step aside. We still got a little bit more soccer talk. I wanted to fit in the Chelsea and Wrexham story, and then we can get into our all sports content as well. But we'll step aside here on episode 231 of Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
Letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
whether it's a championship win or a legendary play.
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
And start watching today.
Back live across your airwaves here on Inside the Game, episode 231. Nate Wangler and Ryan Glinsky. That was a really good interview with Alexi Lalas. Sorry, I can't get over that. I love talking to him, man. He's an open book, and he just keeps going. But let's get into the rest of our soccer conversation here before we dive into all sports. Wrexham to host Chelsea in the FA Cup. Man, this story just keeps getting better. I saw the reaction video yesterday, and it's just what an unbelievable opportunity for that team, for that city, for that town. And I remember last year there was a school not too far away from where I am here, Aquinas College, that had the opportunity to host Central Michigan in basketball, because apparently there was a tournament going on. But for an NAIA program to be able to host an NCAA Division I, it was like that was freaking cool. And the students showed up. The pep band was there. Mind you, they lost by 24. And Aquinas is probably not the best NAIA program in the world. But just to be able to say, hey, a Division I program came here to play at our gym. You know, it's one thing to have a tune-up game at their place. It's a whole other thing if they bring their guys here. That means a lot. That means a lot to a program like that to be on that level. But obviously for Wrexham, it's a different story because they've been climbing to this point, and it's been over a stretch of time. And now finally they get to host a historical side in Chelsea at Wrexham. Just what an unbelievable opportunity for that community. And we talked yesterday about, you're comparing the European fans to the American fans in terms of passion and, how much they buy into it and just how much more it means. It's going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot to this community. It's going to mean a lot to this team, in this this club. It's going to mean the world to them. And yeah, you talk about going crazy and going all in on it. this is the moment for Wrexham. This story just continues to just interweave and interject itself into the heart of sports. And outside of Indiana, I think Wrexham is the second best story in sports right now. Now obviously
Second
Indiana,
best?
they already won the championship.
What's number one?
Well, sorry, is the best. Not second best, is the best. I'd say Indiana and Wrexham are like the top two, in my opinion.
Wrexham was like,
I wasn't saying
their climb
I wasn't
is
saying Indiana
way
over
better
Wrexham.
than at Indiana.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They were already in a Big Ten. They were in a non-league before that.
Picked up a bunch of 24, 25-year-olds.
It's exactly that too. It's the magic of the cup. That's what it is, and that's why I always liked the FA Cup, because round 3 games are always Arsenal goes to Portsmouth, or a Man City goes to a Wigan, or Manchester United goes to a Blackpool. Like that's how awesome that is these smaller teams, these smaller clubs. Which, by the way, we have to call Wrexham the town. We made a video a couple weeks ago, or like a month ago, about it, the rise, and they said to call it the town. So we have to call it the town. Can't say city. That's or anything. Sick. It's the town.
I like that. All right.
And I guess I should have known from the documentary. They always refer to it as the town, but I haven't watched that in a while. But anyway, it's for Wrexham. It's massive because Chelsea is a massive club. Bigger than Arsenal? No. Sorry about that, Chelsea fans. But no, it's and seeing Ryan Reynolds with Hugh Jackman together. Which I had to take a double take about who that was. It was a great reaction, but for Wrexham, that's massive to have a club like that. And they always talked about, I've heard a couple podcasts say, is the Big Six, is the Premier League ruining soccer or ruining football rather? Sorry, the TikTok live ended for a second, but we're good now.
Good.
I've heard podcasts say that the question comes is the Big Six ruining EPL or ruining English football? And most people said no because of this sole fact. When smaller clubs see a big club come to their town, they all like, oh my God, you're telling me Thierry Henry's coming? You're telling me Kevin De Bruyne is coming? You're telling me John Terry and Peter Cech and that great backline is coming? That's what they love. And granted, looking at this Chelsea side, it ain't the legends of what it used to be. I mean, Cole Palmer is the most overrated winger in the world, but they have these guys, these big-name players, and Enzo Fernandez and those players. João Pedro's coming. So they have these big-name players, maybe not as big as what Chelsea used to be, and maybe not as big as a guy like an Erling Haaland or a Bukayo Saka or a Mo Salah, those types of players. Not as big, but it's still massive because Chelsea's a massive club, and it's coming to the race course, and it's going to be really good for the town. And what we're going to finally see is, because we've seen Wrexham, I think, play Man City in these Premier League clubs in like friendlies, but it's not against the big guys. And we finally get to see Wrexham compete against a massive EPL side. And see, because they could potentially get promoted to the Premier League next year. I'm not saying they will, but they're in the mix to get promoted. But if we could see this side actually get tested against a Premier League side, I think that's the big question is what these fans are wanting to see. Yeah, it's great to see Chelsea come to Wrexham into the racecourse, 100%. But how are they going to compete against a massive club? Because they could ultimately be playing this side twice next year in the Premier League, and there's bigger and better clubs in the Premier League than Chelsea. So I think that's ultimately what is getting fans excited for it.
It's the measuring stick game. That's a great way of looking at it. It's the measuring stick game for
But
Wrexham.
let's also see what Chelsea puts out there. They might not have all their main players. So let's see. And
that's true.
And Rosenard doesn't. Oh God, Chelsea's just a stupid club. I can't believe they fired Maresca like a month ago, and they have Rosenard who just cries all the time.
The town has one thing going for them, and that is momentum, and that is energy, and that is, hosting it at home, and everything is they have nothing to lose, I feel like, Wrexham, in a lot of ways. Like, yes, they're trying to battle for a promotion to the Premier League, and obviously that's their goal, but even if they lose in this game, it's not really something that it's like, oh, they lost to Chelsea. Like, okay, they lost to Chelsea. That's fine. So everything that they have coming into this game,
I think
it depends. If they get blown out,
there and lose,
that's a different story. Yeah.
If they lose
like 4-0,
2-1, 1-0, nothing bad. But if it gets more than
they battled it out.
4, they got
then
they're gonna have some questions,
especially
because where they're at in the table. They're in the
marks
mix to get promoted, And this has never happened to get 3 straight promotions, to get 4 straight to the Prem. I mean, that's never happened before. And then you wonder what American celebrities are going to want to do this.
Well, you know that the Avalanche is coming, as if it hasn't already been infiltrated by Americans left and right. I mean, we've already seen that, but if it gets to that length, it's probably certainly going to become even more and more so. By the way, if you haven't seen the video of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney reacting to the news that they will be hosting Chelsea, go check that out on social media. That was really fun. Go ahead.
And the only thing that Wrexham has going against them is their location in Wales. Like, I think Reynolds says he has to fly into London, then drive 3 hours to get to Wrexham. So that's the only issue that Wrexham has going against them. I mean, everything else they got going towards them, but if they ultimately win this one, because that's like, if you're Wrexham, this is a side that you want, because Chelsea's so bipolar. It's not even funny. Like, they're so good or they're so bad. Like, there's no in between. And if you get them on their bad day, and like when things don't go, like, they're hotheads too. Caicedo just gets stupid red cards. Like, you could ultimately be up a man in this game. Like, if this was a Manchester United, I wouldn't want Manchester United over Chelsea, because United's in the new manager bump phase, and Arsenal's got some dogs, and City's got dogs, and Liverpool still has dogs. Like, I guess Tottenham would be the only other one that you'd want to play, but Chelsea, they're just so bipolar that you want to play this team. And do I think they win? They could. That's why they call it the magic of the cup, and in single elimination.
Yeah, there's always a chance. You only have one game. I just think this is finally they're realizing that those goals that they had set out for themselves, which again at one point just seemed so unbelievably far-fetched. I'm sure when they first got there, if they were to talk about, hey, our goal is to get to the Premier League, I'm sure people would have looked at them like,
they did.
This has never been done before.
They did say
no,
that's
I know.
their goal,
And, yeah, and could you? I mean, I'm sure people looked at them like, you're freaking crazy. Like, there's no way. This has never been done before. You're trying to accomplish something that's never happened before. Also, the fact that they're 2 American celebrity owners, this is just, I feel like they've put the rest of the American owners to shame and their involvement. And again, we talked about how much they've invested in the town, and how much they've put on the line to get this team to where it is. Now, obviously the influx of millions of dollars, they've helped out financially a lot, but money doesn't buy everything. Money will get you where you need to go sometimes, but you have to do the rest of the work. You can't just throw money at everything and expect results. But
I think the difference
they've done it.
I think the difference is they don't have any other teams. This is their only one. Yeah, they have shows and movies, but outside of that, this is their only team that they manage. Like, you look at the Kroenkes, they have the Rams, the Avalanche, the Nuggets, Arsenal, which it took for a while for Stan to back off of Arsenal and make Josh, his son, the main guy over there. Fenway Group, they have Liverpool and the Boston Red Sox. They just sold the other team. I forget who they had, but they sold it last year. And then you think of the Glazers, who have the Tampa Bay Bucks, another team, and then Manchester United. And then Bowley with Chelsea, who has the Dodgers and Chelsea. So I think that's a big benefit in terms of American owners. Like, this is their only team that they own. This is the only one they have. A lot of the other ones, and this isn't a massive club by any stance at all. Like, yeah, it's known, but how many of their fans that are American fans are just there because of, like, wow, this is a cool story. Like, I'd love to see Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, their team, get all the way. Like, outside of that, like, most of them the diehards are all in Wales. Maybe there's a couple American diehard fans, but, like, for the most part, it's like, yeah, I just want to see the story. It's like you with Indiana. You just want to see the story. You're not, like, a diehard, like, bleed Indiana or anything. Like, if Michigan plays Indiana,
says you.
I'd hope you'd be rooting for Michigan instead of Indiana.
Says you.
You would root for
No, I'm
Indiana.
kidding. Just to piss you off, that's all. Just to piss you off. No other reaon. Just to get
Michigan loses in the Natty, and you're like, who?
Yes!
At least Indiana won. But no, like, they are doing something special over there. It's great to see, and they're just taking advantage. they are taking advantage of their name, image, and likeness really well over there.
Yep, and they're certainly putting it out there with the docuseries and growing that here in the U.S. too. So, but we'll get into our all sports content on the other side. First, we wanted to talk to you about Barca Academy, proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network and the official academy of FC Barcelona in the United States, designed for boys and girls ages 6 to 18. Barca Academy camps follow and replicate the FC Barcelona game model, the same philosophy used by Barca's professional coaching staff. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code FCB30. Again, that's FCB30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you at fcbarcelona.us/camps.
In Barca camp, I see my son grown on and off of the field. Don't miss the time to register.
Sign up now for Barca camp.
Back live, Sports Nation TV, Inside the Game, rolling into hour number 2. All sports content. A little bit late getting to the party, but 10-11, better late than never. Let's get into conference realignment outside of football. We just saw some news yesterday. Sacramento State looking to join the Mid-American Conference in football. Again, location just doesn't really seem like it matters anymore in terms of conferences. Obviously, Sacramento out in California, Mid-American Conference. Well, it's in the name. It's in Mid-America, but they have a pretty substantial buy-in to be able to get into the Mid-American Conference to play. Ryan, I'm sure you have some takeaways from this one, but a conference realignment outside of football is something that we've had many conversations about, and it has to do with logistics. It has to do with money. It has to do with West Coast teams being away from home and being away from school for 2 weeks? Sometimes, I mean, a month if you're out there for long enough. It's getting weird outside of football, obviously, because football has all the money and resources, but it's definitely getting weird.
This is just Sacramento State. We'll get into the other conference realignment afterwards, but this is I want to lay down the foundation for people. Sacramento State was announced like last week that they'd be joining the MAC, which NIU goes to the Mountain West. Sac State comes to the MAC. Makes no sense. But anyway, this is yesterday. It came out the money that they'd be having to pay. Sacramento State must pay $18 million to join the MAC, $6 million this year, an additional $5 million for an entrance fee to the NCAA. They won't be bowl eligible till like 2028 or something like that. They can't receive any conference distribution and must cover all MAC teams' air travel. That's an additional $2 to $4 million. And what makes this even worse is the athletic department is already working in a $2.9 million deficit. And yet they want to pay all this to just play football. And this is why conference realignment, especially outside of football, should go back to what it is. And you are paying, if you're Sacramento State, again, this is the example I'm using because I have the money in front of me. This is the horrible deal. I get it. You want to come to the FBS. I get it. We want midweek action because that money is so much. This is a horrible deal. Why are you doing this? You are going to spend more money than you are going to make. What is because there's going to be a little bit of recognition at the end of the day, and maybe some people will want to interview and on podcasts. Maybe we should actually hit up the football coach and see if he wants to be on our podcast. Anyway, Like, this is stupid. You're eventually going. There's like 50 or 21 athletic programs at Sacramento State. You're going to eventually have to cut a couple because of what you're trying to do with football. And the worst part, again, for the MAC, this is a win-win. You expand the MAC a little bit to like the country now. It's no longer the Mid-American. It's like mid of the country now. It's not mid. It's like middle of the country.
The MAC
now.
plus Sac State.
Like, yeah, exactly. It's like on a
MAC
diagonal
plus
now.
Sac.
It's like it doesn't make sense. But what I'm getting at is you're already working in a deficit, and you have to cover all of the MAC's air travel. Like, CMU doesn't have to pay to go to Sacramento State. It's basically a free trip, and they get to go play football. That's essentially what it is. And good on the MAC for getting that deal in place because of all. If that didn't happen, all these other teams that are in your conference, I think there'd be 11 other ones with NIU out now. They would lose money. But good on the MAC for protecting their own. And now Sac State, you have to pay this. But what I'm getting at is for the rest of the other schools around the country, if you're a basketball program, which I've heard a couple of coaches come out and say this, you're a basketball program, a soccer program, baseball, softball, you should go back to what it was. If you're the Pac-12, all those UCLAs, the Oregons, the Washingtons, the Stanfords, outside of football, you go back to playing your own sport, because these coaches are so fed up of staying 2 to 3 weeks on the other side of the country just to play games when they have to spend the whole first month or two in basketball sense of in their own playing all these home games against non-conference opponents that suck because they don't want to continue to travel from a money standpoint. So that's, hurts their product because they're playing weaker teams in the non-conference. You have to go back to what it is. For football, that's a different animal because you're traveling once a week and it's football. But also at the same time, there's only like 15 Division I programs that actually make money on a year-to-year basis. I think Michigan, Texas A&M, Ohio State, Georgia, I think, an Oregon, a USC. Like, there's very few programs that actually make money. And you are just, the NCAA, again, it's all the networks, but the NCAA is just continuing to stretch all these college athletic programs thin, where at some point, these college athletic programs are going to have to start cutting soccer, a field hockey, a lacrosse. You're going to have to start cutting this stuff to get the costs because you're losing so much money by just having conference realignment and traveling all over the place for football and basketball. It's got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, every single school in the MAC is losing money. Like, I don't think there's a single school in the Mid-American Conference that turned a profit. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's
Florida State's the latest study, $430 million in debt.
Yeah, I think the latest study was like 20 out of 350 Division I schools are turning a profit on athletics. And it's even if you go to the lower levels, if you go to D2, D3, NA, I mean, it gets so much worse with every level that you go down. And I mean, I've seen it personally at my level too. I mean, now I think it's 3 different schools have closed their doors in the last couple of years. And a lot of that due to the extreme amount of money that they were spending on athletics, and you can't get enough athletes in your school to be able to replenish that model. Now, again, those are small schools. It's not talking about Sacramento State, obviously a different story with the level that they're at. They're doing it, number one, I think, because of the money, because what they can get from you were talking about the Maction, the weekday Maction, and some of the TV deals, the other things that, I mean, I know it doesn't, but there are other opportunities, financial opportunities that come with being Division I. And, I guess the truth is that, operating at a deficit, while it can be seen as, this is a bad financial decision, if you're already operating at a deficit, sometimes being in debt isn't a terrible thing. It just means that people owe you or you owe people. So you constantly, what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to string this point together. But anyways, I don't necessarily think it's the money thing that makes it ridiculous. I just think because if the athletic department is like, to make an analogy, it is the front porch for the house, right? The university is the house, but the athletics department is the front porch. And the most important thing on that front porch is the football program. How you do in football decides everything else in terms of how
That's
your
the
school
master bedroom.
operates or the opportunities. It is the master bedroom of, you're right, of the athletic department. And so I think for Sac State, if they're trying to get to that level, they see football as an opportunity to kind of introduce themselves to that level. We've seen that strategy with a lot of different programs before. The only thing that's weird to me, and it has to do with the second part of your conversation, is that the location and the logistics of all of this. I know that there's the amount of money that's flying around in football compared to the other sports in the United States. Again, we talked about football being the master bedroom. It isn't comparable to any of the other sports. And that's why you're seeing certain universities whack this program or whack that program if they can. But again, because of Title IX, that makes things even more confusing. But from a logistics perspective outside of football, okay, so moving away from the football conversation, it is a nightmare. And it's been a nightmare since these conferences were realigned. And these schools realize that. It doesn't just have to do with the money that they're spending, but it has to do with the mental welfare of their student athletes, the travel, the burden of going from across the country routinely the way that they do, and having to do school and having to do all these other things. It is well, they have tutors, and I'm sure people that probably help fill in the blanks when they need it, because that's just kind of how that goes. But it is a nightmare. You ask any athletic director, they would tell you that it is a unfettered nightmare with the amount of stuff and the amount of places that they have to go and how long they have to stay there and being away from their family and being away from. So I don't get how we can't, as the NCAA, have different conferences for different sports, because I really do think outside of football, it should be what it was. But how do you do that, right? Because if like the Pac-12 is an organization, it's like, okay, we got basketball teams, we got this basketball conference, but in football we're nothing. Like we had two teams, but now they're both, what is it, the Pac-2 now? Does it still exist?
Well, they're adding they've added teams. It's just I don't think the Pac-12 comes back till this year.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. But anyways, no, it's a logistical nightmare. I think for Sac State, this is they want to introduce themselves to the FBS level, and so that's why they're doing it. They're doing it through football. The money thing it just is what it is. Unfortunately, everybody's in debt, so and I think from their perspective, scared money doesn't make money. Even if you don't have it, you may as well spend what you do have. If you can borrow it, you borrow it, and you do what you have to do. But everybody else is suffering because of the madness that football has created. All the other programs just kind of follow the leader in that regard, and it's made it messy in more ways than one.
Yeah, real quick. The Pac-12, it will be launching this year. It's Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, lots of states, San Diego State, Texas State, and Utah State. It's basically the state conference.
State.
So honestly, what should happen is honestly, for all these different sports, you should just have a week or two where, because you should go back to normal, and you have a week or two in the middle of the season where everyone's going all over the place. So, if it's a recognition thing, like you want to see a Michigan play a UCLA, or you want to see a Michigan State play in Oregon, or whatever it is, then what? Let's just have a week or two in the season where we send, certain teams to across the country to play, and then next year they do the exact opposite where they host some opposing teams. Like, I don't know, but when it comes to basketball, and I'm seeing USC have to spend a week and a half playing Michigan State, and then Minnesota, they can't go back. Like, no wonder they're playing poorly. No wonder they're struggling. And as much as I hate Nick Cronin, whatever, I forget his first name, one of the two. As much as I hate that guy, like, he's such a crybaby and whiner, he brings up a good point about, like, we have to play this team, on the road for a week and a half, then all of a sudden we got to bring in the Big Ten contenders. Like, there's no break. Like, our guys are already just like exhausted, and then all of a sudden, let's bring in Purdue, let's bring in Illinois, some of the best teams in the conference. Like, I get it, we have to play them, but like, they're so tired as it is.
And it works if you're playing one game a week. That works.
It does.
Yeah, if you're playing one game a week on Saturday, that's fine. We have to travel, whatever. I got multiple days of rest or whatever leading up to it. But no, basketball, baseball, all these sports. I mean, think about baseball and softball. Like, they probably have to be out there for an entire couple of weeks at a time. And so that is, I made for administrators, for athletes, for everybody else, it just makes it that much more difficult.
It's just like,
but let's step us
common sense, guys. The NCAA,
Yep.
we don't use common sense sometimes. It makes no sense.
Not about common sense. I guess it's about following the money, and they've certainly done that. But you're right. No, you're 100% right in your assessment. But Manchester City Soccer Camps, they are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, bringing world-class training inspired by Man City's global football philosophy to players across the United States, open to boys and girls of all skill levels. These camps focus on technical development, decision-making, and playing the game the City way. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code MCNSN30. Again, that's MCNSN30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you, usacamps.mancity.com. Back in on the National Soccer Network, Inside the Game, episode 231. Getting ready to head into our last half hour here.
Oh, hell yeah.
On number 231. Oh boy.
Bukayo Saka, new 5-year contract extension. Let's go. Let's go.
Wow. Okay.
Fabrizio Romano tweets about that.
All
There we
right.
go. Now score some more
All
goals,
right.
Bukayo.
All right. I love how you break news. That was a great way of doing it. Just scream.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. That's awesome. I'll take
But
that. Now go score more goals, Bukayo.
coming up.
Got like 4 on the year.
Yeah. Did you see the Lamine Yamal biff the PK yesterday?
You know, I saw the beginning of
a
it.
couple of days ago.
I saw the beginning of it, and then I got a call, and then I didn't go back and watch it, but I forgot about it. But no, I've heard about it. Was it bad?
He doinked it. Yeah, he doinked it big time. Yeah, which I think is funny for the chosen one, because he really is the chosen one. But yeah, he doinked it. It's going to happen, whatever. But it was just funny because everyone took the opportunity to obviously pile on the kid. But yeah, very, very entertaining. You've also gotten a lot of pushback on your Arsenal video that you did. I know we mentioned maybe potentially working in a mailbag here, but
Really
really
no, that
do
was
think it's
before
big-
Alexi got on. But no, that was everyone loves that debate. What's a bigger club? Who's a bigger club? They're a bigger club. Everyone loves those debates. Like, honestly, you should do one once a week and just put it out there, and people get pissed. That's basically what it is.
But Alexis Ayala coming up on the show tomorrow, and obviously JP Dellacamera on Thursday. This next topic, I just kind of want to let you just kind of like take over and give us your rundown, because I know you already made a video about this, and I tend to agree. I just have a few questions on a few of the players, but you already mentioned it. Probably one of the worst quarterback draft classes that we've seen. I wouldn't say all time, but it's certainly probably
Who's
up
worse?
there. It is a weak
Kenny
class.
Pickett draft?
I don't know. Probably. You could
Or are
probably
you just
go
saying this
there.
because Mendoza's in the draft and that's your chosen one right there?
Maybe Fernando's my guy. I don't know.
Or maybe he just
but tell us
sucks.
a little bit more.
The quarterback, it's horrible. It's bad because the photo that I showed, which obviously is wrong because Trinidad's on it, and Trinidad obviously decided, let me just skip so I can play like a 6th year in college because, why not? So the picture is, so let me go down the list here, then you can ask me questions later. Fernando Mendoza,
Right.
who should go number 1. People got mad at me for saying he's likely the number 1 overall pick. Look, it hasn't happened yet. We haven't had any combines. There could be something about Fernando Mendoza that we don't know about, and maybe teams don't want to take a risk on him. Just saying. A lot of stuff has to happen. Mendoza, I think he'll go number 1. Do I think he's going to be great? No. I think he's going to be a lifelong backup. That's ultimately what I think he's going to be. Ty Simpson, I think the same thing. If he's good, same thing as Mendoza. It's going to be a couple years, 3 years before he's truly good. If he ever gets good. Nussmeier's just trash. People are saying, he's hurt and, he's going to be a sneaky pick later on down the line. I don't think so. I think Nussmeier's just trash. Carson Beck's trash. Drew Aller's trash. And Cade Klubnik's just trash. They're all trash. So, I don't really need to go in depth on those players. They're just not good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Dante Moore, I would be a little bit more inclined to say this isn't the worst quarterback draft class of all time if Dante Moore was in it. But obviously, he gets $4 million, $6 million, I think, to stay for his senior year. So, I just think it's an overall horrible draft class. And I think if we compare it, because Kenny Pickett was a starter for a little bit. He wasn't great, but Malik Willis was in that one, and he's going to be a lifelong backup. Maybe he actually gets a stint because of how bad this draft class is. Maybe a team goes and trades for. If I'm the Jets, I go and trade for Malik Willis, if I'm being completely honest with you. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Trinidad Chambliss is not an NFL quarterback. And I love the kid. I love watching him. I love the story. Obviously, Fair State, West Michigan, whatever. But he's not an NFL quarterback. I mean, in a lot of ways, he kind of reminds me, not to the same extent that Denard was, but because I actually think Trinidad can maybe
Denard underthrew everybody. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he couldn't throw the football. So he's a much better thrower of the ball.
Hold on. Brock Purdy was in the Kenny Pickett draft. I mean, he's a star.
Wasn't Brock Purdy
Mr. Irrelevant?
When was he? Wasn't he Mr. Irrelevant?
Yeah.
So I mean, that dude came out of nowhere.
He's in the draft,
so
though. He's in the quarterback draft.
But he was Mr. Irrelevant. He was Mr. Irrelevant, though. So I wouldn't.
But he's in the quarterback draft class. He got drafted as a quarterback in the Kenny Pickett draft. So Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder sucked. Malik Willis, I think, will eventually be a starter this year. I think a team's going to trade for him. Matt Corral, garbage. Bailey Zappi, I remember he made a little stint for the Patriots. It was good for a couple weeks. Sam Howell, not good. I don't even know who that guy is. And Brock Purdy. So there is an NFL starter. And if I'm looking at this draft class, I don't think there's any starters. You could say he's Mr. Irrelevant all you want. You could say injuries happen.
But in the
he's a starter.
In the moment, no one thought he was going to be that.
But he's in the draft.
You ask people to think, I get it. No, I understand
it. Doesn't matter if he's Mr. It doesn't matter if he's 260 or 150 or number 1. He's in the draft. It doesn't matter.
But we don't know what's going to pan out with this class, though. We can say all we want that,
sure,
whatever. But we don't know
class
how
sucks.
it's going to
I'm telling you right now, it's garbage.
Well,
and none of them are going to pan out. I think Mendoza will be in 3 years. Maybe he's good.
But no, I listen. I think Mendoza. The interesting thing about Fernando Mendoza is he's not particularly strong in one area or the other. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world.
Strong in LinkedIn.
Not the most mobile in terms of athleticism. Yeah, he's clutch and he made clutch plays, and obviously that image of him diving across the goal line against Miami will always be burned into the heads of Indiana fans. But there is nothing that is all that particularly impressive about his skill set. He is just great within a system, and he's found a way to execute, and he found a way to make plays. But then again, we say the same thing of, okay, he's not physically all that impressive. everybody said the same thing about Brady when he came into the NFL. That like he literally a flagpole could beat Brady in a 40-yard dash, which I'm sure it probably is true. He couldn't put up 225 once. There was nothing about him that was all that overtly great. He was just analytical in the way that he saw the field and analytical in the way that he played. And I think when you watched someone like Fernando Mendoza, like, yeah, he had a lot of weapons around him, but I think he is that way. And I think he's so level-headed. And that's something that NFL scouts really do look at, because the emotional quarterbacks, you think of like the Mayfields of the world and the Manziels of the world, you know, the minute that you get through to them, it's game over. It's like they collapse in on themselves. Fernando Mendoza took one of the hardest hits I've ever seen in my life during that championship game. And, you know, unlike we saw from who was the Ohio State quarterback last year? I'm already forgetting, is Will Howard. Unlike Will Howard in that Michigan Ohio State game after he got popped, Fernando Mendoza didn't miss a step. I mean, now he didn't do great against Miami. I know, like, not even over 200 yards, but against one of the more relentless pass rushes. And I guess if we're going to do, like, what is the closest NFL comparison in college, it probably would have been that Miami defense. And so that was a little taste of what's to come for Fernando Mendoza. But in the way that he sees the field and how analytic he is and how even-keeled he is, I don't know, man. There might be something there. Now, if the Jets get him, like, listen.
I don't think he goes to the Jets.
Before.
He'd go to the Raiders at number 1.
The Raiders. Oh, Raiders at number 1. My bad, not the Jets. Raiders. But if he, you know, I could also see a situation where a couple of years, either as a backup or maybe he doesn't do as well as they thought, and then he becomes a bit of a journeyman, and then he figures it out. But I don't know. I think Mendoza is very analytical in the way he goes about his game. So I think he has a solid shot, an outside shot of being a productive, you know, Sunday quarterback. Now, the other names that I would bring up, so we said Trinidad Chambliss is not an NFL quarterback. I could see him being a special teams guy. I could see him doing other
he's
things.
Not in the draft class.
Specialist of some sort. Right. But that's why he came back for a 6th year. But so Fernando Mendoza, the other one that I would mention is Drew Aller. We didn't get to see the full potential of Drew Aller at Penn State, but he has the most NFL-ready arm in this draft class. He has the most powerful arm of this entire draft class. We just didn't get to see him consistently. He couldn't stay on the field. Penn State fell apart. I mean, that was a Penn State team coming into the year that we had, a lot of people thought that had projected was the best team in college football, that they had the best opportunity, best odds, not just to win a Big Ten championship, but to go win a national championship. No one could have forecasted what the hell happened this season with Penn State. So I don't think we've seen everything that we could have saw from someone like Drew Aller. Now, again, availability is the most important
component
for 2 years. Of all of this. He did start for 2 years, but that's what I'm saying. Body type, arm strength, everything. This was a big year for him. This was the year to prove himself and to really kind of cement himself in terms of being a top NFL prospect moving forward. But he didn't get that opportunity because of everything that went on at Penn State and just the shitstorm, for lack of better terms, that became at Penn State. So I still think Drew Aller has an NFL ready arm. I think Fernando Mendoza is very analytical, and again, I love the way in which he plays the game and his progressions and his mentality, which is, I think, things that the NFL will certainly cling on to. As for the rest of this class, I don't know. I guess it remains to be seen, but you really never know how they're going to pan out. I mean, to your point on Brock Purdy, like Mr. Irrelevant becoming, you know, an everyday guy that nearly wins a Super Bowl. I mean, that's inconceivable. So I think there's a fairly good chance that we're going to see at least one of these guys emerge as a productive NFL quarterback. Now, a franchise guy, I don't know. I don't know if Fernando Mendoza is a franchise quarterback, but I still think he's going to be a productive one in the NFL.
And ultimately, the question that I posed was, by the way, whoever went in the comment section and said Mendoza is the best quarterback, is a better quarterback prospect than Joe Burrow and LSU, please get your brain checked. Please. Joe Burrow had the greatest college football season a quarterback has ever had and probably ever will. Unbelievable season. Did they win a national championship? They each did, sure. Mendoza in all 3 playoff games, and quite frankly, the OSU game, he struggled too. In all 3 playoff games, he did not throw for over 100 yards. 200 yards, excuse me. Not 100 yards, 200 yards. And I don't want to get the Indiana faithful so pissed off because they hate me as it is anyway. But because they're a very insecure fan base. But like, no, please get your head checked. Anyway, to the Drew Aller sense, I think I've seen enough of the kid. He started for 2 years. He played 2.5 years. I get it. He has he's got a body type and the attributes to be an NFL quarterback. But in clutch situations, he chokes. I think he makes in big moments, he doesn't do, in big games, he doesn't play well. And I just think when he plays against an NFL-style defense a couple of times, he doesn't do anything. So ultimately, I don't think Drew Aller is going to do anything. And if he does, it'll be in 3 to 4 years when he's just chilling on the bench. But all these guys, Mendoza included, Mendoza will obviously start this year, obviously. And whatever the Jets do, because honestly, if I'm the Jets, I pass on a quarterback this year. I haven't gone a deep dive into the NFL draft prospects, but honestly, I pass on a quarterback and wait for a Dante Moore potentially next year. Who else would come out of the draft next year? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Gosh, I can't think of anyone. Julian Sayin, maybe? Because I think he's old for a freshman, so I feel like he's had a red shirt in there. But anyway, yep. I just would I'd pass on these quarterbacks at the Jets. Maybe if the Raiders somehow pass up on a Mendoza, then yeah, I would take Mendoza and see what happens. But ultimately, I pass up on everyone. Take Dante Moore number 1 overall next year or I just trade for Malik Willis because it's a backup quarterback. He wants to be a starter. I trade for him. Ultimately, that's what I do if I'm the Jets. I would pass and trade for Dante Moore trade for Malik Willis, But if I can't work out a deal for Malik Willis, I just take Dante Moore number 1 overall next year because you won't have a quarterback, which means you ain't going to win in the league. You might win 2 to 3 games, which poor Aaron Glenn's going to be out of a job in like 2 years as a head coach. Hey, maybe if Calvin Shepard doesn't work out, you come back. But no, I'm passing on a quarterback this year. I absolutely am. And Malik Willis has proven he can play well. And I will say the Jets have gutted a lot of the team. So maybe you don't, and maybe you just tank another year and bring in a Dante Moore. But I pass on a quarterback if I'm the Jets. I really do.
Speaking of the National Football League, we got a potential trade proposal that we are mulling over here on Inside the Game, and it pertains to the Lions and one of their core pieces of their identity in Detroit. So much so, he already has his own statue in the gift shop in Detroit. We're going to talk about that on the other side here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today.
That would say welcome back Inside the Game, hour number 2 here on the National Soccer Network. Get into our final topic here before question of the day. Potential trade. Someone proposed that this could be a potential idea, but Chris Jones for Amon-Ra. Ryan, I'm sure there's many different ways you could go with this. I think there would probably be an uprising in terms of Detroit Lions fans if this were to go through, just because of I think he is really a core piece of that identity in Detroit. But what is your view on this? What's your angle on this?
So this came from a Detroit radio person. This came from Rico Beard, and he talked about Chris Jones for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I get it. I get where he's coming from because he mentions you can or you already have enough toys, I guess, on the offensive side. J-Mo, Laporta, Gibbs, Montgomery, all that fun stuff. But they lack in the interior of the defensive line. Ali McNeil was a no-show the entire season since he came back. And DJ Reader's up there in age. Tyleek Williams wasn't anything to write home about. So, yeah, they do struggle on the defensive line. The issue is Amon-Ra is one of the 4 pillars on this Lions franchise. There's 4 pillars. Penei Sewell, Jared Goff, Aiden Hutchinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe you could have 5 with Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe. But I look at this, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, 4th-round draft pick, has a chip on his shoulder since he got here, didn't even want to be in Detroit. And he has the same grit and determination as the city of Detroit. And you can't get rid of an Amon-Ra. Did Amon-Ra have a lot of drops? Yes, I would say so. But if you've ever seen Amon-Ra in public during the middle of the season, you saw that there was something on his wrist that was never shown or ever reported about. I can say that with confirmation. I saw him in public, and he had a brace on his wrist. So was there a potential injury? Maybe. Maybe he had a potential sprain that he was dealing with throughout the whole year. Now he's going to be back to fully 100%. But I'm looking at this, and he's one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. He's Jared Goff's safety blanket, and especially with a bad offensive line that the Lions have right now, regardless of what they retool, but I'm looking at right now, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the safety blanket, and when you didn't have Sam Laporta, that's where he went to half the time. And Amon-Ra is a captain on this team. You can't get rid of him. But then I look at the other side of Chris Jones. Yeah. Chris Jones will be 32 by the start of the NFL season. Was he really good this year? Yeah, he was fine. He wasn't up to the Chris Jones level of Chris Jones, but you get rid of an Amon-Ra who's younger and I think better at his position-wise than in 2 years, Amon-Ra will be better at his position-wise than Chris Jones. I get it to get the kind of buff up the defensive line, but you can't get rid of Amon-Ra St. Brown for Chris Jones for a 32-year-old defensive tackle that honestly, we've seen he's had off-the-field issues in terms of contracts and money and all that fun stuff. He sat out of the Lions game when the Lions beat the Chiefs ultimately, and everyone was like, oh, it's just you didn't have Chris Jones or Travis Kelce. But there's better D tackles out of there. If I'm giving up Amon-Ra for a D tackle, I'd give him up for – I try to get Quinnen Williams, Sexy Dexy, Jeffrey Simmons of the
Quinnen Williams, the guy who blesses himself when he sneezes.
Exactly. Excuse me. Bless me. Or a Jalen Carter, but for Chris Jones, no way in hell.
Yeah, you don't trade the heart and soul of the team. You don't do it. And that's for all the reasons that you just listed, being the safety blanket, his story, and I think that he has embraced the city of Detroit in so many ways. You talk about having a chip on your shoulder. I mean, when your brother's playing in Chicago and you're playing in Detroit, like, yeah, obviously there's a chip on your shoulder. And, obviously I was talking about the statue a little bit earlier of him, on his head, and that is, it's hanging out in the gift shop there at Ford Field. And so while I love the idea of bolstering the defensive line and bringing in someone like Chris Jones to be able to do that, which obviously our pass rush last year at certain times was abysmal. And it's one of the biggest reasons why teams were able to pick our secondary. It was bad.
The whole year.
The whole year it was bad. And that's why they were able to pick apart our secondary. And listen, you can't, if you don't have a good pass rush, that's where it all begins, right? So I like the idea of adding someone, but even, even like trading J-Mo or trading someone else, another NASCAR pick that someone else would like, that's fine. But to suggest that trading away Amon-Ra St. Brown is a hard look because of all those reasons, the on the field reasons, and I think also the relationship with Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the truth is that so much of being a quarterback is about timing and understanding and body language and feel, and there's a natural flow, there's a natural progression to the way that works. And so when you have a quarterback and a favorite wide receiver, and you also have a quarterback and a coordinator that get along well, it's like having those three all on the same page can win you more games than anything. I mean, I know that obviously Calvin Johnson was a physical specimen, but like it almost kind of reminds me, not quite to the same extent, but it's like him in Stafford. He was his favorite target. He was his guy, and they were always in tune and they were always in sync. And it felt like sometimes those two alone would win us a lot of big games and even would get us to the playoffs. Now obviously Calvin Johnson's a Hall of Famer, but you don't get rid of, number one, you don't get rid of the culture guy. You don't get rid of the heart and soul of the team, but you also don't get rid of your quarterback's favorite target. And all of those things put together makes me feel like that this simply would not be the right choice. And I understand where Rico's going with it. I understand his reasoning. And I think part of it is to invoke an emotional response from the Detroit fan base. Because if you say that on Detroit radio, I mean, Ryan, the calls are going to be flowing in from people being like, you idiot. Why would you do that? Which it did. So I know why he's doing that, and I know why he's suggesting that. Obviously, we don't get calls on our show. Like, it's just you and me chatting and whoever happens to be watching. But no, you don't trade away the heart and soul of the team. You simply don't if you're the Lions.
No,
that'd be a bad choice.
You can't, because the fans are going to riot. And also remember, Amon-Ra St. Brown was the guy who caught he was the receiver that caught the game-winning touchdown for Dan Campbell's first ever win in Detroit, and he's been through the thick of it. A 3-13-1 team all the way to 9-8. That culture win against the Packers, and then 12-5, and then 15-2. Like, yeah, he's gone through it, and you can't lose a guy like that, and especially for a team that is kind of probably in the franchise's most important offseason in probably franchise history, I would say. Because there's so much stuff they got to fix. You want a guy like that is willing to do all the dirty work in the gray areas and everything. He caught the pass to ultimately seal the first ever playoff win at Ford Field. So, no, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a guy that you absolutely have to have. Did he have the best Amon-Ra St. Brown year by Amon-Ra St. Brown standards? Yeah. No. He had a lot of key drops, especially in that Chiefs game. But you cannot lose a guy like that because he's so valuable to your franchise. People like the idea of his toughness, and ultimately you need to keep an Amon-Ra St. Brown in your locker room, on your football team, and just what he does for the offense. Like, him and J-Mo are perfect for each other because J-Mo is the explosive guy, the home run guy. Amon-Ra is kind of J-Mo can go over the middle too, but Amon-Ra is the slot, a little hitch to pick up a first down, take a little bit of contact. That's ultimately what Amon-Ra is, and he's the safety blanket. So you need an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Chris Jones is a really good football player. I get it, and that is a need on this football team is in the interior defensive line. But am I giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown for him? No way in hell am I doing that. And I ultimately, I don't think Brad would do it. I also don't think a lot of Lions fans would even want to do it.
Yeah, I think Brad is smarter than that. I think he understands what that would mean to the organization if he were to do that. And life is not a video game. Maybe in video game land that's a good trade, but in real life it's not. And for so many of those reasons that we just listed, but. No, I mean, again, I understand what Rico was doing. I understand what he was trying to do and trying to invoke an emotional response from the audience because that's what you do in radio, right? Like that's the sweet spot. And so he certainly got that, but no, I think there's other ways of building and filling the holes that you need to that doesn't involve trading away the heart and soul of the organization. But let's get into question of the day.
Question of the day, Salt Athletic, an official sponsor of the National Soccer Network, and question of the day. Save 15% off by using promo code NSN15. Scan that QR code or visit saltathletic.com today. But if you want a chance to win a free Salt Athletic bag, head over to our Instagram right now, Nat Soccer TV. Drop us a follow. You must be following us to enter. Tag a friend and comment hashtag NSN Salt to give away on any of the Salt Athletic posts. But without further ado, question of the day. What is your go-to karaoke song?
It's changed. It used to be something completely different than what it was. I like the band Everclear. Father of Mine is a good one, but I just recently heard a new one that I didn't even know. I hadn't even heard the song before. I saw it referenced in Tires but Santa Monica by Everclear is a really good song.
I've seen the
So
TikTok
I'm gonna
edits.
go with yeah, you've seen those? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've,
I'm gonna roll with that one. Used
I've
to be country. I used to do like Toby Keith or something along those lines. Easy.
I've never
Or Frank
actually.
Sinatra.
I've never seen the show. But no,
Tires?
Huh?
You would enjoy Tires.
Oh,
I
okay.
think you would enjoy Tires.
Sounds good.
Give it a try.
Mine is Ain't No Mountain High Enough. You got to get a song that are for the people.
That's true.
You got to sing a song that the people enjoy, what they like, to get every person in the place, whether it's a bar, little house party, whatever it is. You need a song that everybody knows and will sing. So for how bad that I can sing, it kind of blocks out how bad I'm singing because they're all singing with me. You know what I'm saying? So
I did Green Day. My most recent one, I did Green Day though. So I'm all over the board. Just letting you know.
But Nate, I'm trying to help you out here. You need a song that everybody in the building knows. Because I don't know how well you can sing, but I suck at singing. And so it helps block it out. And it's a short song, too. It's like 2 minutes long. But no, it's great.
All
You
right.
get the people going. They feel really good about themselves. But you got to play a song. You got to sing a song that everybody knows. Because then once you're done, done, everyone's like, man, you're the man. I've seen that happen.
You got to bring the energy too. I think that's the most important thing is the energy. Because I did the what do you call it when you hold the stand and you like kick your way like across the I did that and people were loving that. So yeah, they got into it. The kick dance where like you like I'm trying to picture.
I have
I don't
no
know.
idea
I was
what you're
getting
saying.
I was getting into it. Too much liquid confidence. Anyways, but no, I got the people into it. No, but I agree. That's a really good one. What's another good one?
Frank Sinatra always hits.
Frank Sinatra always hits.
My way.
Sweet Caroline.
That's another good one.
Which is that's good. That's a classic. Anything Journey, I feel like for the most part. I don't know, but that's a tough sing along one.
Don't stop believing. Yeah, it's another good song that everyone knows. Mr. Brightside's another good one that everyone knows.
I love when you get the people up there though that think like this is the moment where they're gonna get noticed, where their career's really gonna take off. Like you can tell, like they're trying to own the moment.
Or maybe they're just so drunk that they think they're going to.
Yeah, true. That's actually the hope in life is that someone's gonna notice me at karaoke at Fulton Street Bar here in Grand Rapids, and I'm gonna be able to take off and not do the show anymore and travel the world and
Or just make a TikTok before the show of, let's see if I have a talent before I have to do my podcast, and you start singing a song and just post it on TikTok. There's another way that can work. Maybe people will see it that way.
Yeah, I'm sure JT will love the image of me being at the bar performing on karaoke night. But no, I I guess I got a few of them. I don't know. I've never really been the biggest karaoke person, but I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten into that a little bit. But okay, you got a good one. When was the last time you did karaoke? I know there's a few places.
No idea. Couldn't tell you.
They do karaoke around CMU. Does Wayside do karaoke these days?
No, it's the Towny Bar Rubbles. That's where you go.
Rubbles.
You go to the Bird. You get a couple of whiskey doubles in you. You feel pretty good. You go over to Rubbles, and then you're good to go after that.
Where's Rubbles in comparison? Are they like on the same street, or is it like across the street? Are they all?
It's adjacent to it. It's right around the corner. You got to
walk.
The
thing when I was
maybe 30 seconds.
When I was a freshman, obviously I didn't get to go to any of the bars or anything, so I really didn't get to experience that side of Central Michigan. But no, it seems like you got it down. So good. All right. Clearly no stage.
That was the move on Thursdays. Bird, Rubbles, and then walk home.
The only thing I remember is from the dorms walking the railroad tracks to everything that was going on right down the tracks to all the houses that were down the way. Did you ever walk the tracks once upon a time? I guess that was
I can't say I have.
That was
I lived by the tracks for 1 year.
You didn't walk the tracks though?
No, because where I was going, I had to go another street over, so I have to walk the other street.
Okay. Makes sense. But now you know a little. Now you know, our viewers. You know a little bit about Central Michigan and where to go too if you want to get some good karaoke. But that'll wrap up episode 231
Only
here.
Thursdays.
Only Thursdays. All right. Thirsty Thursdays, of course. They have a name for every day of the week. Messed Up Monday, Tipsy Tuesday, Wasted Wednesday, Thirsty Thursday, Fucked Up Friday. Saturday's just Saturday, so that's just how that goes. And then Sauced Sunday. And then you start over again on Mangled Monday. But yeah, welcome to Central Michigan. Welcome to
Mount Pleasant.
Semish. That's the life.
Over the 989.
But that'll wrap up episode 231 here on Inside the Game. Great conversation with Alexi Lalas. Again, we got 2 more interviews this week. Alexis Ayala joining us tomorrow, broadcaster for ESPN and for Prep Sport. She's done a lot of big things in the game. She's going to talk a little soccer with us as well. And then JP Delacamera, legendary voice, joining us on Thursday, talk about everything leading up to the 2026 World Cup. But that'll put a bow here on episode 231. And until we talk to you guys tomorrow, my name's Nate Wangler. That's Ryan Glinsky. You've been watching Inside the Game here on the National Soccer Network.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wangler bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside